Welcome to Gutter Talk, the show all about comics and graphic novels. I'm your host, Matt Mitchell. February was a light month, but before we get to the new comics, I have a question for you, the viewers. What do you want to see in this show? I've been thinking about restructuring Gutter Talk because it doesn't feel super useful to just talk about all the comics I've read on a surface level. You know, I can't go into too much detail because I want to avoid spoilers so you can still enjoy reading the comics as well. So maybe it's better to focus on full story arcs and graphic novels where it's more of a book club and I can announce what I'm reading next month, and then we can read it together if you want and have more of a discussion and really dive deep into the comics. The other thing I'm considering that could be useful is still discussing all the #1 issues that I read just on a surface level so that I can recommend new series to you, but then the bulk of the episode is still just graphic novels and older story arcs that we read in full together. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments, and I'll take your feedback into account as I change this show. With that, let's get on to the new comics of the month. First up, we have Where Monsters Lie, #1, which was recommended to me by Ben and Danielle Reviews, so thanks for that. I really enjoyed this read. It's the story of a gated community for slasher movie villains and serial killers, but it's kind of like a sitcom. There's quirky characters and funny situations that arise, such as one of the really good killers loses his bloodlust in favor of gardening. Apparently, cutting blades of grass gives him the same feeling as cutting down people. It's very funny in that way, but it's also dark and gruesome, so just know that going into it. But if you like slasher movies or the horror comedy genre, you'll really enjoy this series. Then I read Nightcrawlers #1, which is set in a future where Mr. Sinister has controlled the world for 10 years and everybody is now a variant of him. He's also created these hybrid clones that are part mutant, part Nightcrawler, so they can teleport, but they also have like Wolverine's powers, for example, which was a really cool concept that attracted me to this series, but it didn't land whatsoever for me. I found partly the way it was written and the story was told to be a bit confusing, and then it was really confusing because I was totally lost. As it turns out, this is part of the Sins of Sinister crossover event, and it's like right in the middle, so I was totally clueless. I didn't know what was happening and just didn't really enjoy this issue. Then I read Miles Morales Spider-Man #3. This was another great issue. It was all about the backstory for the new villain, and I'll say that without spoiling it, the reason she knows Miles and is so against him is simple, yet it makes some sense. There is some flawed reasoning there, which is always good. You don't want the villain's motive to make too much sense because then we might accidentally start rooting for them, but you don't want it to just be so outlandish and ridiculous. There is some truth to her motives, like why she's against Miles and wants to get back at him, but it's not exactly for the right reasons, if that makes sense. So I'm enjoying this villain. It's a good origin story so far. Then I read Darkwing Duck #2, fun series as always. In this issue, he faces off with Quacker Jack and a bunch of evil toys. And I've been really liking in this series how they have a mix of both old and new references. They had in the first issue a sort of Billie Eilish reference, and then they're referencing things like Beanie Babies. So the older generation that watched the original cartoons is reading this and getting those old nostalgic references, and the new kids reading this are seeing current modern references from the things they enjoy, which is great that they're able to do both. The big hook of this series, or this issue, is that Darkwing Duck is quitting. So is Goslin going to take up the mantle, or will Launchpad go from being a sidekick to the full-on hero of the story? We'll have to keep reading to find out, but I'm interested. And last for this month was Batman number 132. This, we get to see Selina Kyle, Killer Croc, and a few others from this alternate Gotham that Bruce Wayne has found himself in. And even the sub-storyline with Robin trying to rescue Bruce is also quite interesting. He's gotten some technology that is going to allow him to jump between multiverses as well. So he's on the lookout for Bruce in these different universes, but he runs into a not the correct one, so we'll have to see how that works out for him. But this has just been a really good story arc so far, starting with the previous one where Chip Zdarsky joined the creative team. I've been really enjoying it, so check out the last episode of Gutter Talk to see a good starting point if you're looking to get into Batman. That's all for this month. If you want to do me a favor, please subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you around comic shops in March.